Hello everybody, so today we're going to be ranking season 2 of Doctor Who, all 8 episodes on the tier list. So yeah, basically what my plans is for this is just to kind of rank each episode, speak a little bit about the episode on a rewatch and find out kind of how I rank this season, because it has been quite a good season to be fair. It's quite hard not to put a lot of these episodes in the A tier at least, because some of the episodes have been fantastic, others not quite so much. So let's start off with the robot revolution. So I'm struggling with this one because I enjoyed it on first watch, but then on rewatch I really enjoyed it. It was more akin to the old days Doctor Who back in 2005 with the silly robots, and the story overall, but it made sense as to what the story was trying to say. The story itself for me just seemed a little bit silly. Like, you get a star map, you get a planet. Wow. But it was quite clever, really. It was quite clever, and the fact that this actually potentially could happen if there was aliens, and we knew there were aliens out there. Robots could come back and like you're named after our planet, you are our queen. Like, it's kind of funny in that regard. But it's just a fun episode of Doctor Who. It's a really, really good start to the season as well, compared to the first season. This is a stronger start, and I really, really did enjoy this episode in a rewatch. Lux. Now, when it comes to the gods, my enthusiasm and love for that era kind of diminished over time. It started off really, really strong with the Giggle and the Toymaker. I really, really liked that, and I liked where it was going, and then we got Maestro, and I was a little bit more on edge of... I loved Maestro. Maestro was fun, it was cool, it was camp, but then nothing happened until we got Sutekh, and in my mind at that point in time, Sutekh wasn't a god, not really, but they changed Sutekh into a god, and I'm like, right, okay, but wasn't really quite loving that. And then the next god we get from that is Lux, and Lux was fun. Like, don't get me wrong, the episode was so fun, but it just lacked something for me. Like, it was more gimmicky than it was serious Doctor Who. Like, I totally get the whole point in Lux's ending is because he genuinely just wants to get light. Like, kind of that's that. He wants life. He wants eternal life, and that's kind of what defeats him when the Doctor blows up the Palooza and lets light in, and Lux just fades away. But it didn't seem like there was any real danger there at all. Like, this episode had the opportunity to throw in so much fun and so much danger because it was a god. Like, but it just seemed like nothing really happened. The best part, I think, that came out of Lux was the Mr. Ring-a-Ding song. Like, seriously, I think that was like the best thing for me. But yeah, I'm gonna place this one on a C. That's personal choice, really, because lots of people will love this episode. I do like it, I just don't particularly love it, to be honest. Episode 3 was The Well, and I absolutely loved this episode. I loved the fact that they brought the Midnight Entity back. I loved how they had managed to change that and adapt to that story without completely ruining the original episode as well. For me, The Well falls into an S tier. We have some of the best acting that we've had from Ncuti's Doctor in this episode. One of the stronger storylines, definitely, within this series, within this full season of Doctor Who. Definitely a lot darker, and it felt like it had returned more towards its original format, which I really, really liked. And you could tell from the beginning of this episode that it wasn't going to be like any other episode in this era. It was completely uniquely its own, and that's why it gets an S rank from me, because it was fantastic. Did it have its flaws? Definitely had its flaws. There was a lot of continuity errors within this episode, and I could see where Russell was going with it, with the clock face and stuff like that. But when you're shooting stuff like that, you need to make sure that your actors aren't like in the wrong places at the wrong times, or at least the camera doesn't make them look as if they're standing where they shouldn't be. And obviously we had Rose Ellis, who was fantastic, absolutely fantastic in this episode. I loved every moment she was on screen. But again, we had her turning round every once again, and it just didn't make sense, because if no one could be behind her, then how can her back? Like, there was a lot of stuff in it that could have been worked out a lot better. But it's hard because Russell had to take this script and kind of change it about to make it make sense for the episode to feature the Midnight Entity. And it was something new. Like, Midnight was new. Like, I've seen the scripts for Midnight, and it's crazy. He literally had to write 4 dialogue pages for each actor that was speaking, and it was crazy. The script for that was like no script I've ever seen before in my life. So they tried something new with it, and it worked for me. Then we have Lucky Day, and I was really, really, really nervous about this episode, because I was like, right, okay, we've got off to a strong start. Episode 1, 2 and 3 have been relatively good so far. Is this Dr. Light one going to ruin that flow? And surprisingly for me, it didn't. I really enjoyed Lucky Day, and I'm giving it an A, because it was wrote by Pete McTighe, who has wrote the new series of The War Between the Land and the Sea, and it gave me an insight as to what his writing was like when he was faced with a task like this. And essentially what he had to do was evolve Ruby's character beyond the point that we had last seen her, and it was done beautifully. Like, I liked Ruby, but I wasn't completely drawn in by her in season 1. And by this episode, I loved her character development. She seemed more fleshed out. She seemed like she had a lot more depth. It wasn't just about finding her mother. Like, it was nice to see how a companion's life is affected after they leave the TARDIS. It's not something that we got to see very often, if at all, and it was nice to actually have a chance to see that, and it was a good episode. The story in the engine, so this one I was a little bit, I don't know, I didn't quite get it to start with. Like, my initial review didn't go down well. I did change my mind on it though after a rewatch, and it did make a lot more sense. It is different for Doctor Who, I'll say that much. It really, really is. It's a different type of storytelling. It works a lot more like a stage play, which makes sense since the writer, is it ᴑᴜᴅᴜᴜ, I think that's who writes it. He is a stage play writer, which makes sense, and that's why it follows that kind of format. I don't know how much it really works for TV, because it did feel like a lot of the actors were just standing around doing nothing a lot of the time. But the story overall itself was quite new, it was quite fresh, and it was really, really quite good for this era of Doctor Who, and that is why I'm going to give this an S rank. And I'm surprised about that as well, because I gave it a really low rating. But that's a really, really good, it is a really, really good episode. It really is. It just has its flaws like every episode of Doctor Who has. But this episode is so different that it feels fresh and it feels new compared to the rest of the episodes in this full season. Then we got on to the big hyped episode of the season, which was the Interstellar Song Contest. Everything was going to change. Did everything change? I don't really think so. Not really. I wouldn't say that the episode was that changing. However, there was parts of this episode that I really loved, but most majority of it was just, now that I think back to it, it's just like I really didn't like the villains. I don't know, I wasn't really keen on the overall story point, and then it just, like, I don't know. You know, I love this episode because of what it is. It is so fun, but it's just, yeah, it's gonna need to fall there for me. I did enjoy it more than Lux, but it wasn't the best of the series. It really wasn't. It was fun. It had some nice cameos. It just seemed like it was supposed to be a fun episode that was hyped up a little bit too much to be changing Doctor Who, to be honest. I was going into expecting big massive changes for the show, and all I got was a bi-generation tacked on at the end. It wasn't anything new, really. Wishworld. Now, this is where I get to struggle, because I feel like these 2 episodes here really should be classed as one whole episode, and I can't do that because they did split them into 2. They are 2 separate episodes. Overall, as one episode, this would probably rank a lot higher, but as 2 separate episodes, I suppose it gives me the chance to spread it out. Wishworld I really enjoyed. I really, really enjoyed Wishworld. It took a fresh approach, and it stuck with it for most majority of the episode. And then we got like the big reveal at the end, and not much else. I don't know where to place this one. It's hard. Yeah, it's definitely not an A. Okay, I enjoyed Wishworld more than I did Lux. So Wishworld's fallen into a B because it was actually a good episode. It was a really, really good setup. R2D does that all the time. Sets up his finales so well, and then they just, most of the time, just run out of steam by the time the second episode comes around. The reality war, I really want to put it in a D, because I'm just, even after a rewatch, I sat and rewatched this myself and really, really focused on the story, and it's such a shame because the first 40 minutes or so of this episode is actually relatively good, minus the fact that the Rani and Omega is just kind of like dispatched with, and it feels like the gods again have no power. Like, this was what my problem was with the gods. It's just none of they seem to be advertised as this big massive threat that you can't defeat, and then all of a sudden they're just dispatched with in a couple of minutes. It's like, it's just so stupid in my opinion, and if you were going to do this, it should have been done right, and it wasn't, in my opinion. The gods really weren't done right. Should have just stuck with normal Doctor Who villains. Like, it would have worked better. The first 40 minutes of this episode is good, and then you get that funny shift in tone where you can completely tell that it's been reshot, and everything just starts to seem like complete gobbledygook. It doesn't make sense for where the story originally was going. And you could tell where the story was kind of going as you watched on, and then it just flipped its head, and it's like, oh, let's go find Poppy so that we can make the Doctor regenerate. I feel like ᴍᴏ left too early as well. I don't feel like this was a proper goodbye for this Doctor. I feel like this Doctor needed a full episode just to do a regeneration episode, which should have been our Christmas special. It does feel like there's been 2 episodes crammed into one here, so it's potential that maybe there was ideas there to continue it in a Christmas special or a one-off episode that would have done the regeneration scene, and it's just not happened. I don't know, but that really lets this episode down for me, so it's going to go in C. I don't have anything in D, which is surprising for this series. But yeah, that's my ranking, and it's actually worked out quite even. I'm quite happy about that. Is there anything in here that I feel needs moved? Did I enjoy Lux as much as I enjoyed the reality war? Probably not. So yeah, I'm going to move Lux down to a D. That was my least favourite episode of this season. And my 2 favourite episodes of this season was The Well and The Story in the Engine, surprisingly, which I didn't like on first watch. So if you've only watched it once, I suggest that you go watch it again, because it is actually better. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let me know what your guys' rankings for this season would be in the comments below. Let's see if you match up with me, if you agree with me, or if you totally disagree with me. Just let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and hit subscribe as well. Just want to take a minute to thank everyone who has joined the channel over the last couple of days since I posted my Bad Wolf Theory video. That video is doing really, really well, and if you've not seen it yet, you should really go check it out.